doing fantastic. How about yourself, Mr. Naughty?
I'm doing fine. Well, we're going to re-release Rocking on the Bowery song, and we also have a video we're re-releasing of some pictures and things that happened at CBGB's. What I
Yes,
want to
sir.
ask you today, I want to talk about Rocking on the Bowery, who wrote it and how did it start?
Sure, be glad to tell you. Rockin' on the Bowery was written by Keith Lane Drewis, who was the exclusive songwriter for Star Tune. And this was the first record that we put out at the beginnings of the punk rock scene. Uh, Animes, the label that put him out, has been established since 1975 and is actually a trademark name in America under federal trademark and is currently still active in the music business. Um, when the CBGB scene started, I started to realize some stuff really quickly as things were starting to happen, that it was going to be very important, besides playing in a band, to have set up some infrastructure so that the band could start happening and could start making music and putting it out to the public. And I founded Animes in 1975. When I went to the Brooklyn Department of Business, I signed the document and everything for the registration, and they said, "Good, you're now a registered business. We can collect taxes from you, and you can be sued. Welcome to the real world of Brooklyn."
Oh
So that
my
was
God.
that was that was my first parental warning, if you will.
Mhm.
Anyway, got that going, and in 19 I put Star Tune together with Keith Lane Drewis in 1975. Keith Lane Drewis is the writer of Merrick, of Rockin' on the Bowery, and the lead singer for Star Tune. I was the producer of Rockin' on the Bowery. It was released August 16th, 1977, on the Animes label, and it's CO 1000. Now, a notable thing happened on that day is the day we released it. I went up to WNEW, which is the biggest station, or was the biggest station in New York at that time. And I sat in Tom Herrera's office for several hours waiting to be seen. I was wondering if I was invisible, but about 3:30 in the afternoon, he came out of his office and I was seen. And the first thing he told me was, "Elvis died today, the music is dead." I said, "Really?" I said, If you really believe that, then you're going to have to abscond from the throne because you're sitting on the top of the musical market here in New York. And if you think it's all over for everybody then." Well, it didn't sit well with him that I would say such a thing to that. A week later, I get a call from Tom Herrera, and he says, "Kid," he says, "you got a pair." He says, "I respect that,
hey
and
guys,
I like your."
hey guys,
Yeah,
Yes.
just a quick one there. Hey Sam, can you move your mouse off that word Facebook because you're blocking the video?
I don't have the mouse on there.
Okay, that's strange. Okay, it seems to be going out on the video right now. We'll clip this out, but there was an issue with the Zoom.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So I got a call from him a week later. You got a pair of yarmulkes, son. I said, "Well, I think one needs one in this business." I said, "But I said the truth to you." He said, "I like your record, and I'm going to put it on the air." And that would be a good time to roll the tape.
All righty, let's take a look at that.
Rockin' on the Bowery, re-released. Movie prepared by.
Okay, that's going on.
Everybody's rocking on the Bowery, trying to survive. You gotta keep rocking on the Bowery if you wanna stay alive. Go to work, find a job.
you guys are voiceover.
Waiting for a bite. Everybody's rocking on the Bowery, trying to survive. You gotta keep rocking on the Bowery if you wanna stay alive. Go to work, find a job. New York City rocks till dawn. You pay the dues to play, but you can party all night long when you rock the Bowery way. Everybody's rocking on the Bowery, trying to survive. You gotta keep rocking on the Bowery if you wanna stay alive. Go to work, find a job.
Okay, you're back.
All righty. So we were talking about 1975. Let's talk a little bit about StarTune and how that was started.
All righty. Originally, when I had moved to New York, I moved there from Hawaii, and I had a kind of a theater rock ensemble called Theater of Madness. Well, we moved to New York, and we played there until about 1975. And at that point, the drummer in the act, his parents were getting ready to retire from their business school in Holbrook, Massachusetts, and he chose to go and take over the school. At that point, that left Keith Lane and myself wandering around New York, where we just traveled 5,000 miles to come there, and the band fell apart. A friend of mine who I had bailed out of jail at that point, Rocky Teplitz, had just come to New York, and he calls me up and he says, "Hey, Cos, what are you and Dosa and Cap doing?" I said, "Well, we're doing Theater of Madness still." He says, "I want you to come uptown and meet me." He says, "I'm working for ABC Paramount now." He says, "You literally saved my ass in Hawaii. I got thrown in jail there with a lot of natives, and because I was a big white boy, they wanted to kick my ass. So you bailing me out saved my life, so I'm going to try to return the favor to you and get your record contract." So I went uptown, got the record contract, came back, brought it to Theater of Madness, and at that point, Cap announced the fact that he was leaving to go to Holbrook. So we lost Theater of Madness, we lost the contract, and I was walking around New York with my head, firmly implanted, and wondering what I'm going to do. And after speaking with Dose for a couple of months, I said, "Are you ready to call it quits?" He said, "No." I said, "I ain't either. I just came 5,000 miles to do something in New York, and by God, I'm going to do it." So at that point, he decided to retool our whole presentation, which was a theatrical presentation, the plays and actors and stuff. And he said, "You know what?" He says, "I'll tool this down to be basically a hard punk rock band." Well, punk hadn't really been invented yet. The name hadn't been really out there. The British market was calling it punk. But he started a new thing, and we called it StarTune. And in the beginnings, we put together a trio around him, drummer, bass, and guitar player. And I realized shortly into it, after we started playing live, that we needed more than just a band. We needed to have a selling tool. And I said, "Well, maybe we should make a record." And that's what we did. We took the band out of playing live for a few months, got them ready to record, and recorded the basics for our first 3 records. Out of that, we ended up finishing up with Rockin' on the Bowery. I had to replace some people in the band. I kept the original guitar player. And then I ended up picking up the bass and playing the bass line. Dose did vocals and second guitar. And we had the basics for Rockin' on the Bowery. We put kind of Beach Boy harmony surrounding the lead vocal and mixed it at a place called Sun Dragon in 20th Street, and we came up with "Rockin' on the Bowery." So that was released on August the 16th, which is now the 43rd anniversary of the song.
Wow.
And it's re-released now as a compilation with images and everything to fit today's market. So there you have the beginnings of Anime's records. Anime's was, like I said, one of the first 5 or 10 labels, and one of the early pioneers of punk rock. Punk rock actually started with a fellow named Terry Ork, who opened a label called Ork Records. And the first record that came out was a ditty by Television called Little Johnny Jewel. Well, that not only started the punk rock scene off, but also started the independence recordings that would become one of the hallmarks of the punk scene. At that point, there was people from uptown that were coming downtown to see some of the music. Clive Davis was interested in a girl named Patti Smith. There was a guy from Warner Brothers, Seymour Stein, opened Sire Records, got the Talking Heads, some acts out of England, and Madonna ended up coming on his label. And with that, most of the other labels started coming down there, and they saw that something was going on. They really didn't understand it yet, but the smart ones already listened. There was a fellow by the name of Richard Goddard who worked with Marty, what's Marty's name? Red Star Records, Marty Thau. And he also produced Blondie in the beginning, and he produced Robert Gordon in the beginning. Both acts I ended up doing some work with, a lot of work with. I ended up going out on the road with Robert Gordon, and I ended up doing things with Blondie and hooking her up with some fashion designers. Anyway, the labels that kind of started, it started with Ork Records. Then CBGB's started recording live at CBGB's, knowing well that there was something hot going on there. And with a good recording, he could launch a lot of those acts. And a bunch of the acts that he recorded was Son, Mink DeVille, who got signed, the Tough Darts, who Atlantic wanted the Tough Darts, but they wanted him with Robert Gordon, and Robert Gordon had already peeled off and become Robert Gordon and become the reinventor of rockabilly music. Then shortly thereafter, Max's Kansas City came out with Live at Max's Kansas City, presented a lot of their acts on that. And then around the same time, up in Boston, Jim Harold, who owned the Rathskeller, started Rat Records. So around towards late 1977, I got involved in doing the National Music and Sound Show uptown in one of the big hotels. And they hired me to be the lighting producer for the live show, at which Huey Lewis premiered, Kid Creole premiered, a bunch of new acts that the mainstream was doing. So I set up a little ramshackle booth with Anime's records, CBGB records, Ork Records, and Rat Records. And it was I didn't have much of a budget to work on, so it was kind of ramshackle, but it really looked like punk. It was kind of rough and raw and ready. And a funny thing happened there. A lot of people came by the booth and ended up buying records and putting them in their stores in Manhattan and stuff like that. And all the majors were coming over to find out, well, who is this guy? What's he doing? How did he get in here? And they all came over, and when they came over, they would say, "What are you doing? What's this all about?" I said, "This is really what you call punk rock." I said, "This is the music your children love or will love, and you probably will be tripping over each other's shoelaces to sign within the next 6 months." My words turned out to be prophetic, and that's exactly what happened. So all the majors lined up and started signing up all these acts that became the big acts of punk rock.
Right.
uh, what I found out that in order to move my thing forward, which was to move StarTune forward, I need to set up an infrastructure that would allow that to happen. Uh, so I ended up putting a business plan together, putting a label together, recording the act, finding out who are the best people and learning from people that I met at CBGBs, met in the business, finding out who the good pressing plants were, the good plating plants, the good manufacturing plants, finding a good printer, and put the routing together to put Rockin' on the Bowery together. Uh, that ended up, like I said, the record came out in 1977, which was really the year of punk. If you remember any, well, if you're around, if you remember any of that era, it was a pretty wild time. Music was coming really alive in the Lower East Side. Studio 54 hadn't come about. I think that came around 1977, 78. But that started pumping out music. There were a lot of different discos that opened. And there was like, two main streams going on. There was the punk rock that was going on downtown, and then there was the disco that was going on uptown. And then there was clubs like the Bottom Line and Tracks and the Palladium that would put on the shows, and that was kind of the ascending scale. You'd go from a club to a bigger club to the Palladium, and if you sold out the Palladium, you might get lucky and get a stadium gig at Madison Square Garden. So that's kind of how that happened, and that's the early beginnings of animes of the punk method. Now, what happened is I realized that in putting the business plan together, that I had to find distributors that would handle the product, and I had to create a play base, and I had to contact people in the media to get the music out there. And I was very lucky in the fact that I was working at CB's there. I started as a cook, and then became the lighting director in late '76. Uh, I was very fortunate in the fact that I was a musician and I could listen to progressions and hear it to hear which way the music was going. And in my mind, that music all put off colors, or it put off illusions in my mind of how that should appear. And when I was hired as lighting director there, I brought in my own little clip lights that I bought downtown on Canal Street when they had Canal Street, and they had all sorts of cheap items you could buy, transistors, all sorts of electronics, all sorts of visual things. So I bought all these lamps, and I had a little dimmer board, and I brought it into CB's and started lighting the bands. What I learned at that point is that there was really two routes to go in the music business. One was as a musician, player, performer, which I was occasionally with Sargent. And the second one was the business section, which was management, publishing, technical producers, record producers, media people, all the people that support the industry, people in the advertising. And I had an advertising background because I was working for a small advertising agency as my day job, and then doing graphics for that. So that's kind of how I started, and put a business plan together that would move animes forward and would move Starking forward. Uh,
Josh,
yeah,
what would you tell someone now about playing music at CBGBs?
well, first of all, CBGBs doesn't exist anymore. That's
Right.
John Bravado, so you have to find another venue. But what I would say, if you wanted to do something like this, uh, you want to start out. Uh, you'd want to start out in the music business, knowing something about it. It would be a good idea to read some books like This Business of Music, maybe take a course or two in school. I was fortunate in that one of my friends was going to law school and invited me to come and sit in some classes with Marty Silfen. And Marty and his brother Stuart Silfen wrote the 7-page treatise, How to Counsel Clients in the Entertainment Business. So I had the benefit of learning how to read and write contracts. He was, well, he managed several big groups, and they're legal. So that was a really good thing. So I would say that number one, read the books that are out there. Right now, I mean, you can find out almost all that stuff online by going on and putting questions in there. How do I get into the music business? What do I have to know about it? You've got to learn everything. You've got to learn about publishing, about how to publish your music, how to get paid for your music. Uh, you've got to learn which outlets are right for your music. You have to learn the people that are in the media and become friendly with them. Today, it's all different. Everything's done online. I mean, for the most part, people aren't putting out physical products. You have to find out which sites will benefit your style and your brand of music. Then you have to orient that music towards those sites. Currently, managing with a group by the name of Knock, and they're an EDM act. And I pretty much had to learn the business all over again and learn who are the players in the EDM thing. And that was before COVID, the biggest, one of the biggest that and jam band music with the big festivals all around the world where you could get 150, 200, 300,000 people out, and you could get them out for 3, 4, 5 days. Tickets went from when I remember starting to go see concerts as a kid, $3 to $5 to, let's say, 500 to sky's the limit, depending on the package, how you travel, where you stay, whether you camp out there, whether you take taxis every day. But it's all changed. So it's very important to stay current with what's going on, especially in your brand of music. So if you're trying to do that now, and another thing that's changed and has made music very accessible is the home studio. For $1,000, $2,000, you can buy a 24-track recorder that rivals what some of the big studios sounded like. A couple of months ago, a friend of mine came down here to buy a solid state Logic console, probably initially priced somewhere around $1 million. I don't know exactly what he played from it, but it was nowhere near $1 million, probably in the $20,000 to $50,000 range. And again, I helped him take the thing apart and package it for shipping. And it was just amazing to see how everything went from these huge, 70, 76, 96 channel consoles into a little console, that can sit on a desktop, that a good microphone, a TV to watch it, and go run back and forth on the internet. And you probably do your own records and challenge what the big studios sounded like.
Amazing technology.
It's move on in technology. So what the capitalization of that would be is you have to become familiar with the technology, not be afraid of the computer, and I would say this: you got to also have good legal counsel. You have to understand how other people in your particular medium are releasing their product. And if you can't figure out a better way, at least start with what they're doing and learn to do it. What I'd say, these aren't my words, these are Keith Lane's, but he said, the dream is free. The hustle is sold separately. All right, so it's kind of like going to a fancy French restaurant. You order your wine, you order your aperitifs, your starters, you order your mains, when it's finished, you order your dessert, and then you get a bill that's going to probably empty out your billfold or bend your plastic. So what I'd say also is that you have to learn how to get things done. And in order to do that, you need MED. You need money. You need energy. And you need drive. And you have to learn who the people are in your genres. Uh, and learn how to go see them, look them up, see what they're doing, see if there's any way you can attract their attention in a positive way. All right, back in the punk era, people would do all sorts of crazy things to get people's attention, from renting skyscraper window cleaning platforms, leveling up to the guy's window that you want to address, and then saying, "Hey, I want you to listen to this." And you were lucky if the guy didn't reach out and try to tilt you off your platform. So that, again, you got to learn. You got to be aggressive in it. You got to want what you want so badly that you can taste it. Then you got to go after it. That's pretty much what the things. Part of the things that you need. You have to find out who suits your market. How's the best way to get a hold of them, and do it. Now, in 1977, there were all sorts of crazy things going on. It was really the beginnings of punk rock, just like '67 was the year of peace and hippie. 1977 was the year of punk rock. Going on in New York was the Son of Sam, blackouts, big snowstorms in '78, all sorts of different things. So you had things to tune into, and those also became sources of inspiration for people.
Well, I want to know what's the funniest story about CBGBs that you can tell that we don't have to beep, 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 beep.
Well, there was a band there that used to play there. The lead singer was a little bit on the wacko side, Jeffrey, and his band was Von Elmo and Otto von Ruggeds, who were very. Otto von Ruggeds was sort of like a Doors-style keyboard player with a kind of a outside edge to him, and von Ruggeds was the first guy that took a chainsaw to his drum kit. So they were pretty much out there on the edge. Well, anyway, they're getting ready to do their show, and Charlie, who was the sound engineer, says, "Kaz, I want you to ride the stage." He said, "Let the lights, just turn everything up and let it go full spread." He said, "This guy's got a barbecue pit out there, and there's a very good chance that he's going to heat those coals up and send flames out into the audience." He said, "As soon as that happens, you're sitting there with a 5-gallon bucket of water, douse the whole thing." All right. So about 10 minutes into their set, they start, going wild. The music is going wild, and Von Ruggins take his chainsaw to his drums, and Jeffrey started the barbecue pit going and started taking Roman candles and sparklers and sending them out into the audience.
Oh my God!
Yeah. So what happened is I doused it, and then sent smoke, a plume of smoke, all the way to the entrance of the club. Well, Hilly comes out like Zeus coming down off the mountain. "They're burning down my club! They're burning down my club! Get them off the stage! Get everyone out of the club!" So that's what happened. The show ended. That was the last act on that film. We emptied the club, and that was the night. That was one of the very funny stories.
Did the fire department sort of follow these guys if they played somewhere else?
Well, they put a tag on them, yeah.
Yeah.
We were very lucky in that the fire department and the police liked CBGBs because in that end of the town at that period of time was like no one really cared about it. No one wanted to be on the Bowery. There's a lot of bums there and hookers and lowlifes and businesses that weren't high on the rating list. So the cops kind of left it alone. Every now and then they'd come down and Hilly, you got to do something about this. You got to, yeah, we'll get it straight. But they would usually warn us before they came down.
That was nice.
Yeah. So that was one of the funny stories. There was so many of them, it's hard to remember.
Yeah. What was your most memorable moment at CBGB's?
I think doing a lot of the big bands that came in, maybe doing the first Police show. The Police opted to make CBGB's their first call in America. And when they came in, that day I had been up to A&M Records, who had their contract.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to sell them one of the Star Tune records I was making, to sell them on Star Tune. And they said, well, we're going to be coming down to see you tonight at CBGB's. I said, great. I said, I did lighting down there. They said, yeah, we'll come down and see you. And sure enough, it was the Police. Their equipment got held because the carnet wasn't proper when they came in from England. So they held all their equipment at Kennedy Airport, and they had to write gear from SIR and roadie themselves. So their manager and sound engineer, helped them load in. They loaded in themselves. They got on stage, and boy, I tell you, they took no prisoners. It was scalps from the first note on.
Right.
And they were just absolute knockout, and then Hilly would bring in a lot of the first wave of punk. He brought in Squeeze, he brought in Jam, he brought in other Cyrax that were playing. He was bringing in the who's who of punk rock. Stiff Records, I think they first did their premiere at the Bottom Line, but then they brought acts into CBs, and it moved forward from that. There was a lot of the great acts. Blondie playing there. I mean, amazing. Some of the television shows, amazing.
Right. And of course, we said Blondie. I know this story, but tell us a little bit about fashion and music, because I think you sold blue jeans and was in, and I want you to tell, people, music and fashion go together so much.
In order to support my rock and roll habit, I sold blue jeans and women's goods in the flea market, in Huntington Flea Market, in Aqueduct Flea Market, in Englishtown. Myself and some partners had 5 going every weekend. So the weekends that I didn't have shows, which were very infrequent, I would go out and I would sell jeans. Or I'd bring them down to the village, put them out on the street and sell them. And, I saw that the music, CBGB's was in essence a cultural petri dish for culture and everything that would happen in New York at that time. And the music became the driving force behind music, film, fashion, culture, concerts, style. I think the Ramones were really the first to start that style with the ripped blue jeans and leather jackets. And I used to, being the fact that I was in the clothing business, I would go to the shows, the National Fashion and Boutique Show, and search for goods there. And I met some people there, a fellow named Bruce Coster, who owned a company called Gandalf the Wizard. And they made really exotic leather stuff, really expensive, beautiful custom-made clothes. And they were doing fashions for Jay Giles' band, for Cameo. So they already had their finger in the market and realized that pop groups were a great way to merchandise and sell their materials. So I found this guy and I said, I went up and saw his goods, and a friend of mine's become a friend for life. Michael T-Shirts was there. I met him. He was a T-shirt manufacturer. So I ended up making T-shirts with him for Star Tune, and I designed a T-shirt that you see me up wearing, a Stevie G T-shirt. One of my jobs before I did the flea markets was I was a graphic layout artist for a big printing firm. So between jobs, I would design things like label covers, business cards, T-shirts, folders, stuff like that, concert bills, and I got into that. And I realized that there was a natural link between fashion and music. And because the pop stars were in front of a lot of people, the fashions that they wore would be picked up by the different fans, and the fans would try to ape it and get into it. So I met Coster, and I said to him, I'm in the scene right now, downtown Manhattan, that's it's exploding at the seams. I said, and there are a lot of groups, new groups, music groups that are coming out of there. If I could find you one that would work for you, uh, would you be able to exchange promotional goods in exchange for them wearing your goods and exhibiting them when they tour and when they do magazine articles and the media comes after them? And he said, "Well, yeah, if you can find someone like that, we're interested." I went back to the club that day, and Debbie Harry and Chris Stein were hanging out there. They used to come see a lot of acts besides playing there. And I went up to Debbie and Chris and I said, "Are you guys interested if I could find you a leather manufacturer that would make you custom leathers, and I'll show you the catalog to choose from. Would you guys be interested in A, doing that, B, promoting the goods, and perhaps putting them on a record cover, and giving them credit for it?" So that all transpired. They looked at the stuff. It was beautiful black leathers that were anywhere from about 800 to about, 1,500, $2,000 a coat. And Bruce said, "Yes, we'll do that." And they manufactured the goods, and Blondie wore them, and they're on the cover of Parallel Lines, all the jackets. Blondie's in white, and then the rest of the guys are in their black leather coats. Well, at that point, they were getting ready to tour Europe. They started touring in Europe, and because Blondie was who she was, and a very, very beautiful woman, the press and the media picked up on her, and she became a media darling in a lot of the big fashion magazines. So that served several purposes. It gave Blondie a real defined image. It helped the leather manufacturer, and in exchange for doing that, Costera made coats for Mayak, for Starchy. So it was a good move. It was at the beginnings of the punk rock starting to becoming a fashionable item, and it worked for everybody.
That's so cool. Well, why don't we talk about what we're doing now?
Sure.
With Knock a little bit and
Yeah.
what we've been doing together.
Yeah. Well, what we're doing is, I know you're a booking agent. I'm a booking agent now. Animes has become Anime's booking agency. That happened in 2002. So I'm licensed, you're licensed. So we're doing shows together. And you have a site up where near the Orlando area?
It's in between Orlando and Tampa.
Tampa.
Yeah, it's in the Orlando area.
So you've got a show coming up in October.
Yeah, I sure do.
Folks out there, who's going to be playing out there, how they can get tickets and where they go to find out about it.
Well, the ticket prices and everything, all that's still in the works, but we have several groups. We've got the 9th, 10th, and 11th, and I guarantee every group there is very talented. And I'm actually doing it on the property of the tent makers who did Ozfest and made the tent for Leonard Skinner. So we have plenty of vinyl to cover the whole place if we have to because of rain. And we also are going to make cubicles out of vinyl so people will be 12 inches, 6 feet apart or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'll be right back.
All righty. In the meantime, I've got to do a couple of kudos here. I want to tell you about the new talent that we're booking here at Animes. Knock, N-O-H-C, available at www.knockmusic.com. They're electronic music, electronic dance music, really hot.
Jack the Donkey with us now.
Then we have,
the donkey that does all 14 acres and stays it, and he became our mascot.
okay,
So we have groups like Previously Loved Laddie, Willow Hill, we have Twinkle, Rock Soul Radio. Uh, I can name them. I will put up stuff and we will announce more and tickets and everything. And it's for a benefit to do a playground for the children on another piece of property. So it is a benefit, but all our bands do get paid. If they do want to give something back, they can, and they will get attached to something. So anyhow, this is Jack. How you doing? Hee-haw!
yeah. With that hee-haw,
That makes it fun.
I was introduced.
But I think we pretty well could wrap this up.
Well, let me do a couple of. I told some people that
I got to put my ears back in.
Yeah.
Can't hear.
Anyway, I told you about Knock. Rainbow Clyde is one of my clients. She's a writer who put out a book. It's a romantic fictional novel about using the Beach Boys music. It's currently titled Endless Summer, but that's going to change. That's a novel that you can purchase called The Endless Summer by author Rainbow Clyde. Then I have Michael Guardian Greeley, who's also an electronic music synthesis and designer. I have Cad Sharp Music, and we have the Sherlock Holmes project. And I'd like to thank a couple of people, Bobby Abbott, who's my partner with Knock, Sammy, who's presenting this with me, the people that I met that were very instrumental in my development at CBGB's, primarily Taxi, who was the first sound engineer there. He's been my mentor for years. Charlie Martin, who was involved in the bookings and in the shaping of the new wave punk scene. Norman Dunn, who was the sound engineer and helped design the sound system at CBGB's. Sherry Himes, who was my first lighting director. I trained there. And Norman's brother, Dennis Dunn. And Hilly Crystal, definitely have to mention him, who is a longtime friend and helped me through the business. I think I mentioned all the major players. Sam Ellis and Marty Tudor, who taught me a lot about light. Oh, and also the writer of Star Treatment, my co-partner in crime, Keith Lane Druids, or as he's known on record as Keith Lane. You can find him at Facebook, Keith Lane, or you can find him on YouTube. He also has a TV show in New York, and we still do a lot of work together, and we'll be releasing more singles. Starting. Over to you.
Alrighty. Well, I think we're going to call it a wrap, my brother.
Well,
thank you all for stopping in, and we're just trying to give you some history of Cosmos.
Yep. By the way, the t-shirt I'm wearing, I designed. It's a CBGB t-shirt.
Yes, we might re-release that with some legalities.
Yeah. And special thanks to our live producer, Tom Schaefer, at the controls.
Yeah, Tommy. Thank you
so much. And that's about it for today, folks. I hope you've enjoyed this.
See ya.